All right, fall is in full effect, and one of my favorite things about fall is apple cider donuts. However, as I'm sure you're aware, apple cider donuts are typically not low carb or keto friendly, at least not the ones you can buy anywhere. So that means you got to make some at home, and luckily, I have the best, and I am saying the best apple cider keto donut recipe in the history of apple cider keto donut recipes. These are just spot on apple cider mill apple cider donuts. We're talking a cakey texture to them with a little bit of crumble, the perfect spicy cinnamon sugar topping on each donut, and they've just got a ton of apple flavor, even though there's no apple cider used and no apples used to make these donuts. We'll talk more about that a little later on in the video. The main thing to know is that each one of these donuts has just 2 net carbs. That said, let's get right into the good stuff and make some low carb keto apple cider donuts. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees. Then in an extra large bowl, we're going to add 1¼ cups or 140 grams of blanched almond flour. Now, while I'm adding that to the bowl, let's talk substitutions. If you're allergic to almonds, you can always use sunflower seed flour or walnut flour in its place. Anyways, once we've got our flour in there, we're going to sweeten up our keto donuts without adding any carbs or calories by adding a 1/2 cup or 75 grams of confectioner's swerve. So once we've got that in there, we're going to add a teaspoon or 5 grams of baking powder to our bowl, along with a nice pinch of salt. Okay, so now we're going to take out a whisk and whiskify those ingredients until they're combined. Then when we've taken care of that, we're going to set them aside and start working on the wet ingredients for our keto donuts. So as you're seeing here, we're going to crack and add 2 large eggs to a medium-sized bowl, and then we're going to give those yolks a slap with our whisk and combine them into the whites. Now, once we've got that looking good, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons or 30 grams of unsweetened vanilla almond milk, and then we're going to add some of this stuff, some apple flavoring, so that we can give our apple cider keto donuts a ton of apple taste without all of the added carbs of actually adding apples. That said, for today's recipe, we'll be adding a 1/2 teaspoon or 2 grams of it for our donuts. Lastly, we're going to add 2 heaping tablespoons or 32 grams of some melted salted butter to the bowl, and then we're going to get out our whisk one last time and combine all of the wet ingredients together. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, Joe, where is the apple spiciness in these apple cider donuts? And the truth is, I forgot to add the spices to the dry ingredients, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to add a nice 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon to the dry ingredients, along with a pinch of allspice and a teeny tiny pinch of nutmeg. Then we're going to whisk and combine those, and I swear this is the last time we're doing this. And then when we've got that looking good, we're going to pour our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. Okay, so now we're ready to hit those ingredients with our spatula and mix them until a thick batter forms. Then when it does, we're going to get out our donut tray, and I highly recommend getting a silicone one like this because your donuts will never stick to the tray again, and it's also only like $8 on Amazon. Anyways, once we've got our tray out, we're going to coat each slot with some baking spray, and then we're going to use a spoon to add our batter to it. We want our donut slots to be about 3/4 the way full, and the recipe will make a full tray worth of donuts. So if you overfill one of the slots, you can always just even them out later on. Anyways, once we've got our keto donut batter evenly distributed in our tray, we're going to set a baking sheet underneath it and bake the donuts for around 12 to 15 minutes. So once those are done, we're going to let them cool down to room temperature in the donut pan, and then while they're cooling, we can make our spicy cinnamon sugar topping for them. Of course, we won't actually be using sugar for our donuts, so we're going to use granulated swerve instead. Having said that, we're going to add 4 tablespoons or about 50 grams of it to a shallow dish, along with a heaping teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a little pinch of allspice, and a tiny bit of nutmeg. Then, when we've added all of our spices, we're going to give everything a good mix like this. So, Now we're all set and we can coat a donut with a little baking spray and dip it into our cinnamon sugar topping. And it's worth noting that you may need to do this a couple of times on both sides of your keto donut to get them adequately seasoned. That said, once we've got enough seasoning on our donuts, they'll end up looking something like this. As I'm sure you can tell, they are absolutely incredible. They have just the perfect amount of sweetness and spiciness, and they have so much apple flavor. And not to mention the texture on these is spot on apple cider donut texture. It's a little cakey, a little crumbly, but a whole lot of delicious. Anyways, that is how to make apple cider keto donuts. As always, for more information on today's recipe, check out the video description below, and I hope you enjoy them.